John, you want to start?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Good. So, John, I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Rauva. We kicked off the operations in Portugal 18 months ago. We started Rauva, and we are aiming for building a digital bank dedicated to businesses. Right? So, really happy about the title of the conference because this is exactly what we do on a daily basis. Embedded everything and embedding everything, right? So we have started to build a super app dedicated to businesses. I lived in China a couple of years. I've seen in China WeChat, Alipay, and the expansion of those super app. Super app means nothing and everything, right? So we started with banking, payment, invoices, expense management. Now we have the accounting module also that comes on top of that, and we aim to build the most comprehensive super app for businesses, right? So think about Amazon or any marketplace, basically, where for us you enter with the payment part, you enter your KYC to get a business bank account, and once you are in this ecosystem, in this marketplace, you can basically unlock different modules. Right, so if you need an invoice module, you can unlock it. If you need an accountant, we just kicked off 2 weeks ago our accounting group to also serve the users, the SME with accountants. And yeah, so we basically around banking, we embed all sorts of modules to serve the SME. Right now we have built all what you call the IGN features, what every businesses need, and we are already at a stage where we start to look at industry vertical and to specialize the module we bring in. Right, so my mic is not sorry. And so yeah, so this is where we are. We are on the first floor, FinTech House, 50 people for the last 18 months, and we are currently hiring. So we are in 100 people right now. We'll be 150 by end of the year. And yeah, so this is Rauva.
Tremendous growth. Rookie? Yeah, you have to take your badge because if you're with the mic.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't make me naked now. Come on.
We'll stop here. Good morning, João. Good morning, everyone. My name is Joaquim Marques. I'm a sales director for Weavr. My role at Weavr, I'm responsible for growth. So I'm working with customers on a daily basis to explore the benefits of embedded finance, but also how to monetize it. I also look after customer success. So customer success for us is making sure that the solutions that we're developing and the use cases that we're developing for customers are right for their business. We deliver those projects on time, successfully, but most importantly, we've got the right support and the customer support teams to help them scale those businesses. In terms of me and my background, as you could probably tell by my name, I'm local. I'm from Lisbon, but I've been living in the UK for the last 20 years. So I would just like to say that it's amazing to see how much the FinTech house and the FinTech scene is growing in Lisbon, and embedded finance as well, obviously, but also, to see all your faces here today, I think is really encouraging and good. In terms of my experience, I started my career in payments. So I worked with companies like PaySafe Group, Worldline, and then moved into IT services and consulting, where I held client partner roles with the likes of Atos and DXC. I joined Weavr about 2 years ago. So was employee number 50, moved from 150,000 people organization, so it was a bit of a shock to the system. But it was really cool, it was really dynamic, and I really wanted to be part of building something bigger. Our management team, very experienced management team, so they've built and scaled 2 successful fintech businesses already. One of them was Entropay, which was Visa's first virtual card in Europe. And the other one, which they sold recently to Niem, was a travel management platform. Alex and Adrian, our founders, they came to market with a view. So with a view of democratizing financial services to anyone. I know everyone uses the word democratizing is a little bit cheesy, but the reality is that banking as a service has been around for a long time, okay? And there was one thing from the experience in those previous businesses that banking as a service that was not addressing, which was still creating very high barriers to enter the market, which was the compliance piece, okay? That meant that time to market and cost was still prohibitive for a lot of businesses to access these services. So Weavr comes to market with the view to enable any non-fintech business to become a fintech, okay, without the burden of being a fintech, okay? And let me unpack that for you very quickly. The burden of becoming a fintech is the licensing, the compliance piece, and everything that comes with it. So if I'll unpack that into quickly our value proposition, Weavr has gone to the market and has built an orchestration platform which enables any business via one integration to consume a bunch of services that we've gone and integrated into our platform. KYC, card issuers, banking partners, payment processors. That reduces a lot of time to market. The second piece is around compliance. So we've gone and built compliance models into our platform. So data risk management, anti-money laundering, transaction monitoring. We've got our own compliance team in-house doing that on behalf of our customers, so they don't have to worry about that, and we're keeping their users safe and their businesses safe. In terms of the last piece, which is really important, and Jon and Paul, you guys will know this, is the user experience. So we give our customers full control over the UX, and a lot of people are embedding financial services exactly because of that, to provide that end-to-end user experience without, at the point of payment, passing those customers on to a third-party financial institution. So we do that in an invisible way behind our customer's brand. Very quickly, just before we move on, in terms of the use cases that we're focusing on, we're working with rewards and benefits platforms. So we're enabling them to put budgets on cards and let people use those budgets to buy rewards that are relevant and valuable to them. We're working with companies like Rauva, where we're working with accounts payable and accounts receivable software businesses and expense management businesses, where at the point of payment, those businesses are still being pushed out to a third-party financial institution using their own debit cards. We're helping those businesses seamlessly bring those experiences inside the application. And from a consumer perspective, a couple of use cases. You've got consumer lending and payroll, which are some of the use cases that we're focusing on. Thank you.
Truly embedding everything.
Embedding everything, yes.
Paulo, Ubirider.
Ubirider is a mobility as a service company. So I'm a kind of intruder on this environment, because I believe that all the people here is related with finance and payments and fintech. And when I start this company, so mobility as a service is a way, or is a thing designed for consumers to allow people to plan as an app, to plan trips, pay all the tickets at once, and being guided with information in real time, aggregating different transportation modes or different mobility modes. And the first wave of companies start like that, and they were not so successful because the rest of the ecosystem, let's say the providers of mobility, the bus, the train operator, or the parking, they were not prepared to be aggregated and to allow this kind of payments in a simple way. So we are a business to consumer, because we decide also to develop our app that allows people call speak. You can use it everywhere in the world to plan trips and to pay the tickets where it is possible. But we start developing also the infrastructure for the providers in a way that can be more than digital, but being mobility as a service ready, so to be integrated. And when I started this company, I remember that the first talk that I had with the team was that the critical aspect was payments, because still a big friction. All of us know when we go to a new city how difficult it is to buy a ticket or the card from the city or whatever, or buying the ticket for the train is always friction. And I said to the team, payments is critical and we have a big problem. I don't understand nothing about payments, just I know how to pay. And so when we start researching and studying how we could use the payments in a way that could deliver an incredible experience for the consumers or for the travelers, but also reducing the friction that exists on the side of the providers of mobility services. I get overwhelmed with so many information, so many things. So I look for some help. Luckily, we could convince MasterCard in helping us and bring us the knowledge and the technologies and the relationships that were necessary to build, in one hand, a tool for the providers to allow them to get contactless payments. So we are used to use contactless payments in London, in some big cities, but it is really strange that we can travel using our bank card everywhere. So I can almost eat in all restaurants using my bank card or going to a supermarket, but I can travel. I can travel in the big cities, but when I come out of the cities is very, very, very difficult. So we are exploring and we are embedding in our tools a thing called Tap on Phone that was not developed for mobility, was developed for retail and restaurants, and we start developing it in a way that is becoming a tool for mobility at the same level of a traditional system like we have in London, but with the advantage that instead of deploying or making a deployment in months, we can do it like we did in Faro in 5 weeks. Since we signed the contract until we put all the city working contactless was just 5 weeks. We reduce the costs, we reduce the time of deployment, and we reduce the complexity. And we give to the operators a thing that they never had before. So they are used to have a ticketing system, a payment system, an invoicing system, and a sales system, and we give them in a simple line that they solve this ticket, that they issue this invoice, that they pay this commission, and it was reconciled in a simple way. So this is what we have done for the side of the providers of mobility, and particularly transit or public transit systems. We have also done a lot on the other side, because when I book a trip that involves parking my car, picking a train, picking a bus in another destination and pay all the things, I want to make just one payment, very simple, but after we need to distribute the money for the parking operator, for the train operator, and for the bus operator. So, and you are using on the back end a very strong back end that allows also make this distribution very smooth and controlling that there is no cent lost on the fare collection process is what we do.
Okay, great stuff. So I guess that picking up a bit on what you were saying, that payments can be a bit overwhelming. I think probably all of us had that sense at some point in time. I mean, despite European efforts to normalize things across the Union, you still have different payment rails in different countries, you have different settlement systems in different countries, different even, I would say, AML legislation to comply with, or tax systems to comply with. So payments can be quite complex. And I guess each one of you had to face that at some point in your journeys. So I would ask you to elaborate a bit on what were the challenges to address the complexity, and how did you do it? How did you go about addressing that complexity?
So the first thing are the language, the acronyms. Every time I went to the meetings, there are people talking in different acronyms, and there is a list trying to understand what they are talking about.
You need a glossary.
Yes. The other thing is that I found is that in this payments arena, there are the same names for very different things and very different names for exactly the same thing. So it is. So I spent, I don't know, but months trying to understand what are these guys talking about. It was really difficult to get on the language. But the second thing is, and particularly on the mobility side, so there is an example, is what was done in London in 2012. And all the people are trying to copy the London system and making some evolutions. The problem is that London has a lot of money, a lot of resources, and in the way that they think, public service is very different from the rest of the world. So it's not replicable everywhere. So what we have tried to do is, can we do it in a totally different way? And for that, it was, again, incredible. I have never worked with a company like MasterCard. I am an old entrepreneur. I started several startups. They split the waters for us and brought us, instead of saying, you are going to talk with 100 guys, they brought me 3 or 4. And that was really, really important at that key moment. The second thing that was important, it was to work on the side of the operator, to understand exactly what were their problems and where were the pain points. And we are very lucky because our first investor is Grupo Barraqueiro, that is the biggest operator in Portugal and Spain. So they move 300 million people, and they have 60 companies in bus, train, even ferry boats, and in different places. So the pandemic that almost killed us, because we were starting sales in March of 2020, and closing an investment in March 2020, so nothing happened, and it didn't happen for 1 year and a half. And Barraqueiro made a strong bet on us, even if they were suffering. So they were selling around more than 300 million euros, and they sold just 170 for that time. But they kept supporting us because they felt that the change that the pandemic will provoke, it will be beneficial for us, and particularly on the payment side. After the pandemic, no one wants to go to a ticket office or a ticket machine, and for us was really, really important we had time, and the pandemic was really useful for us to understand the pain points of the operators, and after going to search the technologies and develop what we have to develop to make it simpler for the user and also for the provider.
Okay. Yeah, I can go next. So in terms of the European and the British capability, Weavr offers a pan-European solution, so we're able to support customers all over Europe and also in the UK. And we've got customers live in some of the major UK economy, but some of the major European economies, and those businesses are onboarding users all across Europe. Okay, in Portugal, Spain, Southern Europe, Northern Europe, Eastern Europe, everywhere. And working with customers, one of the key things that they come to us and ask, and they've got big ambitions to scale their business internationally. And like João was saying, scaling a business internationally, even in a region like Europe, for example, you would think that we can just lift and shift a solution and drop it in an European country, and the rules and regulations are going to be the same, the employment laws are going to be the same, the data standards, everything is going to be the same. And it's actually not that easy. It's still, for example, I can give you an example. Onboarding a sole trader, the requirements of onboarding a sole trader, which is a one-person company, they change a lot from European country to European country. And those small things, they make a big difference when, launching a business. So when I'm working with customers, our advice is don't try and do 5 or 10 countries at one time. Do one country and do one country well, okay? And once you've done that, once you've designed, one of the biggest things, and I'm going to continue to talk about this today, is the onboarding. And I'm sure you guys will agree with me, is the biggest point of friction. And, we work with customers to make sure that that design experience reflects the use case that they're trying to serve, the type of users, whether they are business users or consumers that they're trying to onboard, and work with them to get that completely nailed. So once that's done, we then think about taking the solution to other economies. And I can give you an example of a customer that we're working with in a second. But the beauty of working with a provider like us is that customers can focus on the go-to-market strategy from a business perspective, and they don't have to worry about the complex and fragmented financial services piece, because that's our expertise. So we sit behind them taking care of that while they're trying to understand how they're going to grow and scale a business in a complete new territory, in a complete different new economy. An example that I can give you of a customer, you guys can read about this in the news, is a French rewards and benefits provider. I work very closely with them. They had an existing user base. They were using a voucher-based, points-based type solution, and they wanted to move, which is quite rigid. You know, you get a voucher, you can only spend it in certain places, and those places were all within the French market. Okay, by working with us, we've given them a card that those users, they can put budgets on those cards, and those users can spend that card with that card anywhere in the world. We don't want them to do that, so we've got controls and stuff that we put in place to make sure, you know, we reduce fraud, and we don't enable, for example, things like ATM withdrawals and stuff like that, because that use case shouldn't allow those sorts of things. But you know, they have big ambitions to expand their solution outside the France to the UK, which is a complete new market for them, but also to other countries in Europe. So we're helping them do that, and the way that we're doing that is, you know, the UK, for example, has got, João mentioned, I was going to call you John, João, different taxation policies in terms of the benefits that you receive before tax and after tax. We've got very different employment laws and HR policies in the UK, and they need to really nail that down. And if they were doing that and thinking about understanding the financial service piece, it would just be an overwhelming task for them to land and expand in this new territory. With us, they can focus on the business side, and we enable, you know, the quick access to the financial services in that particular territory, and hopefully the rest of Europe.
John?
Who was a small company in the audience? So, not a lot of entrepreneurs. But so I'll try to go through the journey, right? So, because for us, it's basically finding a solution to fix this journey, right? And so it starts with company creation, start with opening a bank account, in Portugal specifically, selecting an accounting software. Sorry for that, just remove it. Easier, sorry for that. So, can you hear me? Yes. Yeah. So in Portugal, for instance, you even need to onboard on a certified software to send invoices now, right? And those invoices are connected to the tax system. And so we looked at this journey, and to start very quickly, I mean, we have a team of 50 people right now. Most of us have done that in several other markets before. We have 12 nationalities, and we really looked at the product to enhance this journey, and we started with partners. Right, so it takes time to get licenses. It takes time to get license to send invoices in Portugal. Right, so we have done several partnerships. We kicked off last year in April. We had only 10 months in with this product. We are only in Portugal and designing, as you said. Yeah, we are focusing on this first market, and then we will expand. But by looking at that, we basically started with a banking as a service provider. Right, to kick off quickly, we didn't have a license at the beginning, and we wanted for the user to start to KYC, to start with payment, to start with a difficult thing, which is still today in Portugal, for instance, opening a bank account online for a business, right? And so we really wanted to nail it down. So right now you can open a business payment account in a few minutes, and you will have an agent behind the scene, a check-in. So it's still a bit manual, but still it's enhanced. Around that, we connected all sorts of modules to enhance the experience, and we connected those modules not by building all of them, right? We went really fast on the market. We arrived in like 6 months before we arrived in Portugal, and 6 months later we launched. So a lot of partners, but invoices, expense management, accounting, right? So we started with a set of partnerships, and quickly, again, listening to the users, to the entrepreneurs, we figured out that we were not there yet, right? Because indeed, talking about onboarding, for instance, our banking as a service serve all sorts of other clients, right? So our onboarding is not specifically tailored for a Portuguese SME, and that was a limit for us. The invoicing software, for instance, we are ready to go to Spain already, is not going to Spain, right? So we started to look also at the limit of our set of partners and partnership, And we started to insource. And we were forced to insource because we wanted to deliver the best solution, embedding everything for the SME. But the truth is, if you really want to tailor the journey and nail it down to a specific local market, you need to insource most of the modules. So on the 8th of September last year, we signed the acquisition of a Portuguese bank to acquire 100% of Banco Empresa Montepio. We are currently building this bank from scratch. We have also built our proprietary invoice software, right, which goes now everywhere in Europe. We also build our own accounting group. So within Rauva Enterprise, our holding, we have also an accounting group right now, right? So we started to insource all sorts of functions, but really because we are forced. We are forced for quality, right? Quality and control of the quality, which was serving the entrepreneur, right? We have tested a couple of accountants on the market, didn't get there. Invoice software, we had limitation, right? So we brought it in. Banking, for us, it was also enhancing the onboarding experience and the payment, the FX experience, right? So we are still under constraint to do even FX, to send money abroad. If your banking service provider is not willing to send money abroad and it's not a priority on his roadmap, you are maybe not in priority, right? So it was essential for us to insource, and it was also essential to insource for credit. Right, so you need to be a full-fledged bank to access the deposit of a client, of an entrepreneur here. And so for us it was primordial to insource banking. And think about that: when you go to a bank as a small business and you require a loan, generally the banker will ask you for 3 years of historical data, which are generally a financial statement, cash flow, P&L, balance sheet, and whatsoever. They ask you for a lot of data, but really you can't do anything with that because it's a very static vision of the business at a certain point, right? If you look at the balance sheet, it's a picture, a snapshot of the business at a certain point. You don't have all of the movement, and if anything, as a small business, you don't try to have more profit. You start to try to have less profit and pay less taxes, right? So 80% of the time when a small business requires a loan, it's rejected. It takes 53 days in average to get a repay from the bank. Right, so with banking in the center and all sorts of modules within the super app, the idea for us is to gather data. When a normal bank, an incumbent bank, look in average at 20-25 data points, we look at 5,000. We look at all invoices in, invoices out, all of the reconciliation, all the payments from the very beginning, which is the company creation, and we are able to populate in real time a credit score, and this credit score give access off the shelf to credit product, and it's very simple. For a small business, it's a bit of invoice factoring, a bit of overdraft, credit card, short-term loan. Right, so that's the objective here. But yeah, so this is through data. We understood more and more also that banking as a service is needed in the market, right? So and to enhance modules, you need this banking as a service to start with, right? Because for instance, the accounting team we have right now is really enhanced by this fintech product that we embedded into this accounting software. An accountant can clear an invoice now. Tomorrow, an accountant will be able to deliver a short-term loan to and who else more than the accountant know if a business can reimburse a loan, right? So we reshift a little bit the user journey and who are the stakeholders in this journey. But for us, the next step is certainly not only to serve all of the modules within our super app, but also to go out and, as we will be connected, especially in Southern Europe, to all the banking infrastructure, and we are prepared in Spain and Italy already. Those are markets where, to pay social security and taxes, you need to be connected to the local central bank and you need a full-fledged bank. It's the same case in Spain with Bizum. Right, so we are basically connecting our bank to all of those local banking systems, and we'll offer a banking as a service for all sorts of modules that will want to enhance SME journey. So it's a very strong focus for us on the SME. But any modules in Southern Europe, which is home of half of the entrepreneurs in Europe, 12-13 million SMEs out of 25, right? We will be able to deliver also a banking as a service solution in this market.
Okay, so I'll probably pause here for Q&A from the audience. Do we have any questions? Or are we still sleepy? Probably need some caffeine here. Okay. Well, I think one thing you three have in common is the focus on the customer experience, right? But having said that, I mean, Paulo, you are the non-fintech, but providing financial services, having someone like Joaquim working on the backstage to enable you to do it, and probably Jon is somewhere in between because he is today enabled by someone like Joaquim, but is doing kind of the journey to become a self-sufficient company here, right? Financial services company, that's it. But I mean, what's next in your view? So I mean, payments has a lot of dynamics going on. What's next on your view in terms of what embedded payments are going for? Joaquim, I think you have some very good thoughts on that.
Shall I go first? Well, there's going to be a huge surprise right now, guys, because it's something I've not mentioned yet today, which is compliance. No, but it's really important because, you know, customers come to us, and compliance is what stops, fraud. Okay, and you think about fraud, money laundering, terrorism, trafficking. That's the sort of power that money has online electronically, is really, really powerful. So when I have customers coming to me and they say, we want to ask for less documents to give people a bank account and a card. We want to, the experience to be quicker. My answer to them, and I've lost contracts because of this, my answer to them is, there's no magic bullet, guys. The regulators are actually becoming tighter and tighter, and there's a number of different banking as a service providers over the last couple of years who have had their licenses suspended, okay? Because they're not giving, the serious attention that, they should be doing in terms of doing compliance right. And it's one of the things that we as a business, we think is one of our key differentiators. I think, this is the challenge. I think the future, and, Jon touched on it really well, is what we refer to. He spoke about data, he spoke about offering tailored experiences, is we refer to a Weavr as contextualized financial services, okay? And it's by doing exactly what Jon and Paul are also doing, which is bringing the data from the application. I'm losing the mic. Is it still going? Can you hear me? It's using the data from the application, bring that data together with the financial data, and make all the different stakeholders, the financial stakeholders, aware of who the users are, what the use case is, okay? And I'll give you a quick example, is we've got customers in the UK and in Europe. I can give you an example of a car loan app that you get a car loan and you use that loan in real time to buy a car. And then you've got a completely different application, which is a car parking app, where you used to pay for your parking, okay? One user is going to transact a load of times at a very low value. The other user is going to transact once at a very high value. From a regulator perspective, from an onboarding perspective, the sort of documents that they're asking for both of these users, it's exactly the same. It's completely mental, it's crazy this. So we are working with customers to overcome that, to create specific use cases, to make all the different stakeholders aware of what's coming, so these services can be more easily accessible to these people. The last piece, I just want to leave you with a couple of examples is, I used to talk about this 2 years ago, and the examples that we used to give used to be Uber and Amazon as embedded finance providers and mainly consumer type solutions. This is here to stay, and you're looking at companies like SAP, for example, which is probably one of the biggest software houses, ERP solutions in the world, have made a move into embedded finance last year. Okay, you look at accounting platforms, for example, QuickBooks last year announced that they had a partnership since the beginning of their business with Bill.com. Okay, and the problem that Jon is solving is to bring that experience inside and making it all automatic and reconcile all automatically. QuickBooks has actually stopped and thought, we're actually spending a lot of money in terms of acquiring our customers, okay? And then at the time of payment, we're referring them to a third-party institution. Aside from the inefficiencies, we can actually bring this experience inside our app, either with ourselves, with a company like Weavr, or by becoming a bank and getting a license. The options are there. And we can increase the engagement, increase the stickiness we have with these customers, deliver more value, and monetize that value. For Bill.com, it was a huge loss for them because 50% of their customers were QuickBooks customers. But it's a no-brainer for QuickBooks to make this move, and we're going to see more and more and more larger companies moving into this space.
Great stuff. Paulo, I think when we were chatting about going about this conversation, you touched on some challenges that you have on one, scaling up, and I mean, scaling up and being a startup and facing some problems from your clients, being afraid of change. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, we move three things. So we move people, or we help move people.
And money.
We move a lot of data, and an operation of mobility of transport is very complex in terms of data. They generate a lot of data, but doesn't mean that they have information. So we transform that data in meaningful information and in real time. That is a quite recent thing for the industry. And we move payments. So the data and the people is a challenge, are different challenge, because, for example, to move people and to give you an idea how to move in the same way in every country in the world is a challenge, but is doable with more or less work. Moving data is ubiquitous, is not a big problem. But moving payments, it was our biggest challenge. So when I start, we were working with a company in Spain, and I start thinking that it would be a challenge to move for another company and do a lot of internal development to be able to sell in France or to sell in yes, it was difficult, very difficult. So we came across and the evolution since 2019 that brought a lot of fintechs and tech companies for the fintech arena, helps us a lot. So we come across of a company that I love that calls Viva.com, used to call Viva Wallet. So and they brought us the possibility of having the same system working in 24 countries. But I'm not so lucky like these guys that can become international country by country. So it's a little bit more chaotic, because we need to go where the opportunity is. And for example, one of these days, someone called me and said, "Paulo, I have a very strong case for you here in Cairo. I even don't know how to put an app working in Arabian. But we have been working to have the same terminal that works everywhere in the world, and then on the back end connect with acquirers, gateways, and so on, in a way that we can make it easier to scale. We are in a really interesting moment at this time of having really global tools that we can deploy everywhere, and that thinking that we can use the same kind of and again the user experience, not just for the end users. So when we are traveling in the middle of a place that we don't know, so the app really to need the user experience is really the top thing that we need to do. And 1/3 of my team are designers, and we don't write any line of code without everything very well designed, prototyped, and very well tested. But also on the side of the providers, you have a lot of stakeholders. You have a driver, so totally different experience from a dispatcher or from a person in a ticket office or from a general manager. And we design also for them fusing the information of the payments or the financial information together with the data. And for the first time, we are having tools that allow us not to think 24 countries is already great, but thinking also in other dimensions and going to everywhere. The other thing that is important, and I have not mentioned here, is the combination between the physical channels, because when we are talking about public transit, we have very different personas working. We can't ask an old lady to have a smartphone and work with a QR code. So the physical channels still very important to manage. And we are also working in making that experience quite good. So we are working here with a very strong partner, PayShop, that is a national, to create a case that after we can leverage in other countries in the world.
Okay. John, your take on that?
So for us, next step is it's a lot of execution this year, a lot of build, but we are on track to already start to look at modules which are more specifically oriented to certain verticals. Right? So think about the Apple Store.
Experience.
Exactly. Think about the Apple Store. Everyone has an iPhone, but every experience on this iPhone is different, right? And it's different by country also, right? Always make fun of that with my wife. She's from the US. I'm French. I have the Apple Store on the Dutch Apple Store. So we look at the type of app you have access to, and it's two different experiences. It's two different experiences even in your browser sometimes. And so this is this level of localization that we have to organize, right? So think about the Apple Store, and for us, connected to the Apple Store is basically connected to a tax system. We KYC you enter to the banking system, and within this ecosystem, you have access to all sorts of modules. And as an entrepreneur, as a small business, these are the modules that you need. By knowing your industry, by working with you and providing accounting services, we know you more and more. We know what you need, we know what you don't have, we know what you lack, we know where you want to grow. And so we can specialize and basically proactively enhance the journey by targeting the user with a specific module. And we can do that by localization. So this is what we are currently preparing. So think about not the all two-dimensional type of banking solution here, but really something which is an ecosystem, a live ecosystem, a marketplace where as an entrepreneur you can connect and access all sorts of services, of products. And the good thing will be the localization. More and more the entrepreneurs travel, the entrepreneurs have several entities across the world, so the localization will be important. For that, we are not going to, Apple didn't build the Apple Store themselves, right? So of course we are everywhere where we need to actually build it. We are going to build it proprietary. But most of the roadmap now is either partnering with module, and we scout for the best module for the SME, or M&A, right? And that's what we have started. We have M&A spree targeting the expansion across Europe. So yeah, so we'll do also a merger and acquisition in this roadmap.